There's one interview which millions of investors they always look forward to. That is Rakesh Jhunjhunwala interview to ET Now for the outlook ahead. This year, apart from talking about the year, we'll also talk about the decade. And incidentally later this year, Mr. Jhunjhunwala also turned 60. So we'll also talk about his birthday plans. Mr. Jhunjhunwala, slightly late this time, but wish you and your family a wonderful year and Happy New Year.
Same to you, all Indians, all viewers. Happy New Year, God bless.
Mr. Jhunjhunwala,
I would say Happy New Decade.
Happy New Decade. Well, that's a wonderful way to look at it. How would you characterize the current environment? Markets at an all-time high, economic indicators at a record low.
I think it's an environment full of opportunity. I think when markets are all-time highs, there is not any sort of manipulation in markets, and there is no participation. In no cocktail parties, equity talked of. Equity is a bad word. So I think that indicates that there is a lot of opportunity.
Why are headlines not matching with what markets are doing?
You should ask yourself, because you make the headlines, I don't. I think there is a general, certainly certain parts of the economy are being hit, have been hit, but I think things are improving. But I think just as, you overdo the optimism, we are overdoing the pessimism. For one, think the economy is bottom, and the way is improvement and upward. At what pace and in how much time is a matter of conjuncture and opinion.
So let's take your view on the 4 pillars of the economy: consumption, exports, government spending, and private sector capex.
Right.
So when you're making a view on the economy, why don't we talk about these 4 pillars?
All 4 play upon each other. Government spending affects capex, consumption leads to capex, capex leads to consumption. So I think all pillars of the economy will improve according to me, right? And we have bottomed, I have no question and no doubt about it.
When we met last in the month of August, your view was that markets have bottomed out, economy has bottomed out. Post that, markets have rallied, at least benchmark indices have rallied, and economy we can argue whether it is good or bad. There are some green shoots, but there are some there's some bad news also.
So see, for the kind of fall we have had in the economy, we are not going to improve in a day. And the green shoots in the market, what is important is that the breadth of the market in the last 2 months is far better than what it was earlier. What is important, not only markets have improved, but even the participation in by breadth wise is much better. And the economy is not going to turn itself in a day. It's a slow process, it's going to take time, right? But it's not as pessimistic, there's so much pessimism. And I think a lot of pessimism is emanating from the fact that a large part of elitist India does not align itself with the political and economic policies of this government, with the political and social policies. Large part of elitist India is aligned to the economic policies, but they are not aligned to the political and economic and social policies. And they are expressing that anguish in their thoughts about the economic policies and consequently the economy.
So when we also spoke about the way how future business would be done, you said that the way business was done in the last decade versus the way business will be done in the decade will change now. But that entire change is coming at a cost.
We have to pay the cost. If there is a cancer, it has to be cured, chemotherapy has to be taken, your hair goes, so many problems are there. So that correction in the way our society functions is coming at a cost, and I think no cost is enough. That change has to take place.
Now what is happening because of this?
And remember one thing, that change has come in the form of the GST, in the form of the banking code, in form of RERA. These are all long-term very positives for the Indian economy. And only thing that I see are harping the paper is this is not good, this is not good. I don't know how good the bankruptcy code is. I can't believe GST is not good for this country. And every country has faced struggles in implementing GST. Whichever country, whether it's Malaysia, whether it's Britain, whether it's France. So we are just going on harping with the problems without realizing that these acts are going to lead to a good and better economy and society.
What is also happening, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, is that the big are getting bigger and the mega companies are getting ultra mega. In this economic slowdown, every sector has seen a supply disruption.
That's a function of, that is what happens in any society. As societies mature, as sectors mature, the big get better.
But there is nothing wrong with this, because if there are very few players left.
No, we have a competition commission. It's not that there is monopolies are being created. There is intense competition in all aspects in India. In fact, I think, and the percentage of GDP to percentage of profit, corporate profit GDP is an indicator. In America today, it's 10-11%. And one of the primary reasons is consolidation. In India, still there is intense competition in each sector. You tell me one sector in which there is no competition.
Is that what markets are voting for? Because wealth flows and the change is what is happening in the economy, I think is getting reflected in the market, because 15-20 stocks is where all the price action and all the flows
I don't really agree that 15-20. I can clearly tell you from the price movement in the markets that there is big stirring in mid-cap and small-cap stocks. And they are now starting to flutter. And a lot of them have gained very well. So I see no reason to say today that the rally of the last 2 months or the rise is only of the large caps.
When we met in 2019 beginning, you said that 2019 will be a flat year for the markets and markets should consolidate. That would be healthy. Markets have consolidated. Where do you see markets could move in 2020?
Well, the trajectory is upward. Where it will reach, I don't know.
Both for mid-cap stocks and large-cap stocks?
I think especially for mid-cap and small-cap stocks. I think they will outperform.
In 2018, your words were that market भूल गया है कि mid-cap में 30-40 का P multiple क्या होता है. Can I say the reverse of that in large-cap stocks now?
No, I won't say that. See, what has happened, there are few quality stocks in India. Now, they have always been expensive. But every time you sold, they got more expensive or the prices went up. So, I think there is an initial, the initial hesitation to sell. And see, this happened in America when there was Nifty 50 in 1971, 72. Even this will correct itself. But it's not sort of a bubble that the stocks are going to go down half or they're going to lose their value. Because these essentially, I think there could be periods of time when they may not appreciate for 3-4 years. Between 2001 and 2009, Hindustan Lever gave no return. Right? So, but it's not as if they're a bubble and they'll burst and they'll become half in value. I don't think all this is going to happen.
In last 10 years, what we've seen is that we've seen low monetary policy. Inflation has got crushed. A lot of central banker liquidity has come in. You always said that if interest rates are low, equities will outperform. Do you think we are in this kind of a scenario for next couple of years?
Well, if Japan is any guide, right? See, all developed societies today are facing the challenge of demographics, which Japan faced. Now, the Japanese central bank owns half the government bonds. They keep printing money, but there is no inflation. I, for one, think that the Western world is going to grow between 1 and 2%, right? And there's not going to be inflation. So, I think this fall in interest rates is permanent. Maybe if they have fallen 100%, 90% is permanent, 10% will go. So, I think that is going to lead to asset inflation.
So, are we in for more of the same, which is that a lot of money will continue to chase stocks and other asset classes?
See, as long as there is confidence, capitalism and stocks and the banking system and the economy is based on confidence. As long as there is confidence in government, I think, and inflation is low, asset prices will remain high.
In last 10 years, we've seen American economy to be the standout outperforming gainer. American unemployment at an all-time low, American corporate profits at an all-time low, American stock market GDP at an all-time high. It's been the decade gone by really belonged to America. So my question is that next 10 years, will money come back to emerging markets?
I would think so. And I think whether money comes to emerging markets or not, I think in India the biggest money will be the local money, because we have seen nothing now.
Some would also argue and say that, okay, slip flows have started. That's something which you predicted, I think in 2014, your words were that a tsunami of flows will come to India, that it is happening now. But every time an FIs have sold, it tends to have a very large price disruption in the short term.
Not necessarily. I can point out a lot of periods where FIs have sold and markets have gone up. So I don't agree that FIs are the deciding factor of our markets.
But $14 billion coming in 2019 when the headlines was bad, were you pleasantly surprised with this kind of a commitment?
Well, it is a belief that the economy will recover, that there are great companies who will do well regardless of the economy. Two factors.
You always believe in identifying mega trends, whether that was pharma, PSU, it was consumption. For this decade, what do you think is the big mega trend?
I thought about a year or two back that insurance will do very well. It is doing very well. I think financial services will continue doing very well.
Is that the reason why you've taken a large investment in a health insurance company?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons.
So what banks did in last 15 years, can insurance do that to capital markets in next 10
See,
years?
they're already very well valued. But I think that's one industry which will do well. I think financial services in general will do very well.
Financial services right now have about 40% weightage on the Nifty, all NBFC and banks put together. The number was as low as 30%, less than 30% 10 years ago. At 40%, don't you think the sector is getting bulky?
No, but that doesn't mean the sector will not do well. I mean, the Nifty may go up 80%, this sector may go up 70%. See, the raising wastage is also because HDFC and ICICI Bank, which have the and HDFC, they have no public ownership. So it's a free float. So their free float is 100%. While all other companies have ownership management, the free floats are lower.
You were very bullish on banks when we met last. Do you continue to remain bullish on banks?
Absolutely.
And I would imagine, are these retail banks or corporate banks?
All banks. Choose what you want.
You bullish on banks because you expect economy to pick up, or you think competition is right?
I am bullish on banks because I think the credit intensity of the next phase of growth in India is going to be much higher. Consumer credit in India is still very low. You cannot create a liability franchise, and I think the NPA cycle has peaked.
Even though we understand that SBI will have to do the Divan write-off, even though there are challenges.
So what? You look at the size of his balance sheet, look at the provisions. It's the tail end.
Last 10 years, markets have been punishing PSUs, whether it's PSU banks, PSU metal companies, or PSU across the board. Is there scope for re-rating of them?
I think the re-rating, I thought the re-rating would take place, when the government announced the disinvestment of BPCL. But unless and until the government spells out a clear and transparent disinvestment policy, there will be no re-rating. If the clear disinvestment policy is made, I think there will be rapid re-rating.
There are three companies which have emerged as real outsized gainers for the decade gone by: Indigo, D-Mart, Bajaj Finance. So this belief which people have that only tech and AI and data-based companies will grow, I think has got completely debunked. General view, I'm talking about.
So that therefore, just you said India has produced some great companies. You said no, why 14 billion came? If you have good companies, money will come regardless of the economy.
What will it take to be a winner in next decade or this decade? To be a winner in this decade?
What it took to be a winner in the last decade. Quality of winners or characteristics and characteristics of winners don't change.
Large part of the growth which has come in PE companies, individual investors cannot participate in that. How will individual investors get opportunities in this decade to participate?
That's a world. See, you cannot have retail money, right, in non-public companies, because you have to service them. You have to, therefore that unlisted money can only be institutional or large money.
Will that continue into the next decade, or do you think that will change?
Well, I think there is a big bubble in all these unicorns, and but that bubble is going to burst. I think in the next 12 months, it's already bursting and it will burst in the next 12 months. So I think small investors would be better off not participating in all this unlisted, I would say, excess.
Are you surprised that gold and Nifty has given the same return in last 10 years?
I think gold is one asset which will really perform well.
But do you think gold and financial markets or gold and equities can go along hand in hand?
Sure, why not? Gold is a very, very small part of the total. I think the total value of gold in the world will not be 2% of the total financial assets. So why can they not go up in unison? And gold will go up, I think, because in my opinion, interest rates will not go up. And statistically, China and Russia and other countries which have $5 to $6 trillion of reserves, foreign exchange reserves, they want to diversify from the dollar. And the only currency they have other than dollar is gold.
We've also seen emergence of ETFs in last decade, largely because of technology, algorithm-based trading. The challenge with ETFs is that when the price action could be disruptive. In this decade, where do you see technology emerging? What do you think will be the new technology which could change the way financial markets have moved?
Well, I don't think along those lines. And ETF is not a technology, it's a methodology, right? But I think that will also peak.
When you look at human behavior and market behavior, the fact that the world is much more connected, The world has much more information. Information is no longer an edge which used to be couple of years ago. How do you think the investor behavior in this WhatsApp world has changed?
I disagree. See, all information has two parts. One is data and one is interpretation of data. The availability of data may have gone up, but the skill to interpret the data is still rare. So, data is important, but interpretation of data is more important.
Would you say that is a differentiating edge for Rakesh Jhunjhunwala?
I think that is a differentiating edge for anyone who is successful.
Why is investing simple but not easy for millions of investors?
Well, because I think it defies human nature in lots of ways.
The fact that you're highly opinionated has been your edge and the differentiating factor?
See, being highly opinionated is a razor sharp sword. It can work very well if you're right. It can work against you if if you're wrong. But I think being opinionated is important.
We're nearing the budget. Do you think this time if the fiscal is compromised, that will not make the markets unhappy?
I think markets we are missing the woods, the wood for the trees, right? For the simple reason, see what's more important is, you see what they've done in the coal policy. Now I think there will be so much investment in coal in India. There's no reason why India should import coal. India on a net basis should be a coal exporter. The question was you are not allowing private sector, then you are putting all kind of conditions. So I think there will be, what is very important is there should be liberalization, or there should be ways by which there is ease of doing business. I think there will be a lot of policy announcement in the budget. I think there will be announcement in FDI in a lot of areas. I personally feel government should make it long-term capital gains tax-free by enhancing the period. From 1 year you make it 2 years. So up to 2 years become all short-term capital gain. I think it will lead to net gain to government revenue, and it will lead to a big gain in sentiment. Enhance the period of long-term capital gain, but make it tax-free. Then I think we should give a lot of relief to the real estate sector. We can make a view that anybody who buys a house in the next 12 months, whenever he sells it, there is no capital gains. First of all, people generally don't buy houses to sell them, right? And second thing is there is no immediate loss of revenue. If you say that whenever you buy a house, if you sell it after 2 years, minimum period, there will be no capital gains. And I think there should be other relief for the real estate sector, right? I think we should enhance the amount of, and I think there should be big relief for tax payments for income from 10 lakhs to 25 lakhs.
So it's high time that the government now takes notice of the demand side of the economy. That needs to be fixed urgently according to you.
See, nothing can be fixed by one action. It's a process. So, a lot of government action is needed in order that the economy comes back to its growth potential. Second thing is also we have to communicate by the budget to the business community that we are on your side. We have to revive the animal spirits of the business community. And government, I think, if it removes the surcharge or reduces the surcharge, it will really help in getting back the sentiment. So, government has to do some action by which it conveys to the business community that we are on the same side.
But are markets expecting, in your view, something big from this year's budget?
Well, I don't think they're expecting anything negative. I don't know positive, right? But there is not there is no retail or public participation still in the market. I am personally hopeful it will come after the budget.
But in your view, STT and LTCG, can they coexist?
They should not. Nowhere in the world do they do. So, if the government, best thing is government abolish one of them. I think long-term capital gain is better because STT, the government gets the money 10,000-12,000 crores from 2 exchanges without any administrative cost, right? So, I think it's better if we abolish long-term capital gains. If government cannot abolish it, make it 1 or 2 years.
Budget is all about taxes. So, I have to ask you another follow-up question on taxes, which is that direct dividend tax. Is that a draconian tax?
Well, I think the 20% dividend tax is not draconian, but the tax put on dividend income is according to me not needed.
So, if there is a change on LTCG and direct dividend tax?
No, direct dividend tax is most undesirable. Again, you have to then do TDS, then collect the income. It is administratively a nightmare. This tax which the companies pay, I think, is much more convenient. But then anybody who has unit income of more than 10 lakhs has to pay tax. I think that's unjustified. Because you have a 25% rate of tax, then you pay 20%. Again, you pay 10%, that becomes very high. So, I think 20% rate of dividend distribution tax is okay, and I don't think we should tinker there.
You talked about that more than slowdown, there is a perceived slowdown. But if I talk to corporates, people, some of them are common friends, When every time slowdown has happened, some smart guys have always come out and committed to capital and equity. This time around, that surge, that desire, that annual split is missing. Why is that?
I don't think so. Why people are not? People are, wherever there is demand, wherever there is paucity of capacity, people are committing. But
In
people
general mood.
also, because earlier risk taking in India or risk failure was excused easily, people were ready to take risk easily. Now, if you take risks and you fail, the consequences are higher. I think that is what is making people more careful.
Then what happens to the inefficient or the small MSC and SME companies?
Well, small MSME, SME companies are not big. They have their own strengths, right? It's not all over the world. There is a small, even in America, the major manufacturer is the small MSME and the small manufacturer. So I don't think anything is going to happen to them.
Which are few of the government actions which you think markets and nobody is taking notice of? Which have happened and nobody.
I think this reduction, this new coal policy has not been, except Mr. Jindal, nobody has welcomed it in any serious manner, right? Government is trying to enhance the ease of doing business, right? They are trying to do all reaction should be through the net, right? So government, the income tax return should be assessed without communication between the assessee. So government is trying to create all the, but it's not easy in a country like India.
And where do you think government needs to catch up? Where you think ideally?
I think one thing is defense procurement. We have not been able to do anything in defense procurement.
Frankly, we've not heard any big bang announcement even after the corporate tax cut from any of the MNCs. It's been about 3.5 months now. Our manufacturing rates are lowest now.
Well, we don't want any big bang announcements, right? We want the actual work to be done. I think it will come 101%.
In last 10 years, all emerging market currencies have suffered. Dollar is where the strength is, and Indian dollar or Indian rupee has gone down by more than 50%, and yet exports have not picked up.
Well, the 2 to 3% depreciation of the rupee every year, 3% at least is minimum because of the difference in inflation. As far as export goes, see, India's biggest export, actually net export, is software. They are going up. Other areas is, unless we do ease of doing business, unless we create better circumstances, exports going up is difficult.
As an investor, somehow were you dismayed with the kind of corporate governance issues which have come in last 12 months from big corporate houses?
I'm not dismissed, I was expecting them. And I'm very happy that they have come.
But the fact that Indian companies have traded at a premium because of great governance and the fact that we were always not as opaque as other countries were, will it get tarnished now?
You can't paint the Indian entire corporate sector as with the same brush. The corporate governance problems in few companies, not in the entire corporate sector.
So you think markets will be able to absorb?
Absolutely, and also now anybody who realizes that he wants valuation, he has to do good corporate governance.
Why markets are giving a stepmotherly treatment to the infrastructure sector? It's not that things are bad.
Well, because the banks and the government is giving a stepmotherly treatment. Government doesn't pay in time, your dealer is a government, right? Banks don't release money. Governments don't honor contracts. Look what's happening in Andhra Pradesh.
In the market right now, nobody is talking about power, cement and steel.
No, steel and cement shares have come back very well in the last 15 years.
They are not like the darlings of the market. Let me put it this way.
But they are not darlings in earnings also. No? To be the darlings of the market, there has to be earning. Where is the earning in steel and cement? It's all in anticipation.
So if economy picks up, can that be the go-to space for next couple of years?
Well, it can be. It can do well. But I think cement is at the moment is very well valued.
Finally, pharma stocks on an aggregate basis.
I am bullish.
You're bullish.
And I have been bullish for the last 1 year. They have not done well, but I am still bullish.
Where do you think you went wrong in assessing it?
I don't think I've been wrong in assessing it. I only think it's taking more time than I thought.
Since the migration is happening in all the sectors, where do you think the migration will happen within the pharma space? Will the big get bigger? Will there be new technology? How will things change here?
The big will get bigger. There's no question about it. I think now the emergence of new players, new large players is very difficult, especially in America.
Consumer is where some would say the underperformance has started in last 2 or 3 months. Consumer is where over ownership is high. Consumer is where some would argue growth is a challenge.
I don't think growth in where consumer is there is going to be a challenge. Growth is going to come. And what is there in relation to what they have gained, what is the correction? It's very poor. See, I think consumer stocks are going to remain favorites. They may correct in valuation. But if I see a decade, 2 decades, good consumer stocks are going to do well.
So can one really look at a safe portfolio of good corporate banks and good consumer names for next 10 years? Will that
Well,
make
that
money?
you take advice, sir. I have nothing to comment.
I'm generally talking about
I can't
earnings.
talk about portfolios which I can't tell somebody buy only banks. I don't know what opportunity a person could have.
Of course. Tata Mystery. The groups are fighting again.
That fighting is all over here. It's all over.
But given that the Mysteries have 18% stake in Tata Sons, do you think they should come back on the board?
Well, I have had 18% stakes in companies and I have not been on board, so I am not competent to comment.
Chandra finishes 3 years, and I just before you answer this, I want to put on record that Mr. Jhunjhunwala has always been a big votary of the corporate policy Tata Groups have followed. Okay, now my question: are you, as an investor, are you happy and satisfied with the policy Chandra is taking to reboot?
Not
Tata
happy,
Group?
very, very happy.
Why do you say that?
Because he's actually consolidating the group, affecting on cash flows, demanding performance, rewarding performance. I think taking the right policies. I am very, very happy.
Tata Motor is yet to recover. TCS is on autopilot.
Also, recovery doesn't take place in 2 months here. I think the worst for Tata Motor is over.
Would you say the group to watch out for next 5 years? We are talking 5 years and 10 years. The decade has started. Could be the Tata Group.
Well, they're going to do well. I don't know with other groups. Tatas are going to do well, that I can say.
There's a change of guard at Titan.
Yeah,
Does that bother you?
not at all. I think the successor, of course, to have a successor to Mr. Bhaskar is not easy. But I think Mr. Venkat, who's successor, is extremely competent and good.
What is in store for some of these niche businesses in India? When I say niche businesses, jewelry business, retail business.
They are going to do well. If you say don't buy jewelry, tell your wife, then you'll know.
So if one has to understand Mr. Jhunjhunwala, the decade gone by, we've had good returns. When I say good, 9-10% on the Nifty, 9-10% on the small cap index. This decade,
I had a good decade last year. I don't know.
this decade, do you think investors should brace themselves for a double-digit return?
I think you will get a better return than what you got in the last decade.
But why do you feel that way?
Because I think the Indian economy, the financialization of savings in India will gather much greater pace. And I personally think India will grow 9 to 10%.
Was there any period of time in last 6 months you got worried given the headlines which were coming out? India's nominal GDP plunged below 10%, GDP plunged below 5%.
I have full confidence that this GDP will recover.
If India has to go from 3 trillion to 5 trillion, what will add to India's GDP growth? What could be that large profit pool?
Everything will add. There is nothing singular which will add here. We make dedicated freight corridors, that will add. We make airports, that will add. I think the Udan scheme is very good. Right? Everything that we do economically will add. What we got to have is ease of doing business and honoring of contracts. That is the most important. And a fair taxation system.
Finally, looks like we are in for double-digit growth for Nifty. Would you concur with the street view?
Double-digit growth?
For the Nifty, because banks NPAs are over, the base effect would kick in.
We will go off, but I don't know how much. Double-digit, triple-digit, single-digit, all that. I don't know.
A lot of time has been spent in boardrooms discussing about future of transportation and autos. It's a large sector now.
Future of transport by electric cars?
Electric cars.
I think it's overplayed. It will take a lot of time.
So you think in India we should not shy away from admitting that India still needs non-electric or combustion-based fuel engines?
India is going to need it for the next 15-20 years.
Do you think autos have played a very large role because of in the economic slowdown, because it's a large part of the GDP?
See, autos are in the throes of change, right? Electrical vehicle, this, BS5, BS6. So where there is change, either if you're very definitive, go there. If you're not definitive, stay away.
I'll take my chances with this one. I'm going to ask you a couple of short-term dominated questions. That's for Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, the trader.
Tell me, no?
What is the screen telling you, sir?
Buy.
What could be the worst case scenario for the Nifty in this year?
See, it depends. Tomorrow, if there is Iran and US war, it could be 9,000, 8,000. But normally, I would think that 11,000, 11,200, 400 will not be violated.
Between the Bank Nifty and the Nifty next 5 years, where do you think there's scope for greater outperformance?
Well, I won't say about the Nifty and the bank, but stock-wise, there is surely perform. There is scope for outperformance by non-financials also.
The last time when we heard you bullish or extremely bullish on small and mid-cap stocks was actually in 2012, and your words were, "इतना सस्ता माल मिल रहा है, लग रहा है चोरी का माल मिल रहा है." Are we reaching that kind of a level for mid and small cap?
That I will say not. I will not say in general, but stock-wise, I think there are a lot of opportunities.
You've always said that I like to identify businesses where there is scope for earning expansion and P expansion.
Right.
Where do you think this could happen in the markets now?
Well, that's not for me to advise you to search yourself. That will happen where companies have good quality earnings and the P's are small.
Rakesh Jhunjhunwala turned 60 this year.
Yeah.
Are you looking for a big birthday gift?
Well, a birthday gift I want from God is my health. Yeah.
How has life changed for Rakesh Jhunjhunwala when he was in 40s and now he's going into his 60s?
I think it's much more subdued and much more mature. And with a greater acceptance of life as it is rather than what you'd like it to be.
You always stressed upon that, look, if one thing you would like to change is your health. But apart from health, what is that other thing you would like to change about your life?
Be more patient. Be more receptive.
If Rakesh Jhunjhunwala on his 60th birthday has to write a letter to Rakesh Jhunjhunwala who was 30 years, what will that letter have?
That good deeds and a good conscience is the most important thing in life.
Which is one habit of yours, you don't like it but you still have it.
Anger.
What would be your message to millions of investors who get worried about seeing headlines in India when they see...
Have confidence in the country, expect reasonable returns, make good money.
And for SIP investors?
Keep investing.
You think SIP is the best way to invest in this?
Yeah, I'm advocating it right from the beginning.
But is Rakesh Jhunjhunwala as bullish as he was?
I'm as bullish as I ever was.
What gives you this confidence, sir?
The basic fabric of this country.
Which is?
The basic skill of these people, the democracy, the evolution, right? The bottoms-up approach, the unity, the entrepreneurship, the natural resources. What is it that we don't?
So if I have to take a message back for our viewers and for Indian markets and for those who track you, your message is the worst of the economic print is behind us, worst of the market is behind us, and mid and small cap stocks have bottomed.
Yeah.
You think insurance could be a high growth sector?
It's a good growth sector, but it's very well valued. Be aware.
And you think gold should be a part of everyone's portfolio?
I think so.
Well, we've had a very frank chat. We've covered a range of topics. So wish you a wonderful year ahead, a wonderful decade ahead, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.